Welcome back to TRB Vlogs. Today we did something a little bit different. We interviewed a gentleman named Aidan from MowSnowPros. Now, he made an app here locally, and that's successful, so that's really cool. I know a lot of us have said the words, and then we can add an app to that. We're all a lot of us are business owners, so we've thought of the app game. I'm sure we have, or a lot of us have. I certainly have. So I just wanted to interview someone and kind of bring that knowledge to you guys, to myself. See what we can learn from that, because these days apps are awesome. They're super convenient. Adding that to your business is huge. It's a huge achievement. So here's someone who actually developed a successful running app. His name is Aidan. He made the app MowSnowPros, which connects people who want snow removal and mowing to people who can do that. Apologies for the wind noise. Here's the interview.
Born and raised in Calgary. In my teen years, I mowed lawns and shoveled snow in my neighborhood just for a few of my neighbors, and loved doing that as a kind of part-time gig. Love working for myself. That's kind of where I started knowing I wanted to work for myself. I did that at the same time as working for Starbucks, and definitely appreciated running my own business more than working for someone else. So that was always the goal. But at that time, I kind of just grew that to probably 30 or 40 clients. Always did it myself, didn't hire crews, didn't really know how to take the next step. Like I think I started at 13 and did that for 9 years, and it was enough to kind of keep me busy and keep me happy working for myself. I just didn't know how to grow it. So went to university at UFC for business, and majored in entrepreneurship, and so that kind of furthered my desire to do my own thing. And then when I graduated from there, I still didn't quite know what to start, wanted some experience, so worked for a small company right underneath the founder. I think there were only 3 of us, and learned a lot through there. So they were an online scheduling software company, and that kind of got me more into the tech side of things, I guess. I was always interested in tech, but didn't know, I guess, how to apply it or build it or any of that stuff. So learned a bit there about building a website, and kind of just how to run a business and client management, all of that stuff. So left that and started MowSnowPros. Basically, I think there was a rise in the, like you were saying, in everyone wanting an app at the time, and the rise in the on-demand apps, and that being a solution for a lot of companies. And so when I did the lawn mowing in my teen years, I always did it on demand, and kind of like customers would call me when they needed service. I'd pay for time.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure it's running. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so they'd pay per time instead of a monthly contract, and we kind of wanted to give them that flexibility, and it seemed to be a bit of a niche in the market. And talking to my roommate at the time, he had also done landscaping work, and so he had some experience in it. And we kind of just talked through the idea, and we're like, hey, it kind of makes sense to have an app that you could just click a button, somebody would show up, and send out all of our anyone that wanted the job or had spare time in their schedule to pick up work, and they could come and do it. So that's, I guess, where things started and originated from.
Right. So the app is called MowSnowPros, and it connects you, say you want some mowing for your house, to someone who's willing to mow your house. It's that simple. It's like Airbnb, for example, but it's for the mowing and snow removal business, typically residential.
Yeah, for the most part residential. We'll do some smaller condos or kind of fourplexes, but we stick pretty close to anything that you can use like manual equipment for, I guess.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, you're already in 7 cities.
8 cities, yeah.
Yeah, 8 cities. But you started here in Calgary, Alberta,
Yep.
Canada. So that's good. So tell us a little bit about the app development. Like, how long did it take? Was it difficult? Do you have any programming experience yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I don't myself, aside from kind of just building websites, is it. So I knew enough to do a bit of back-end coding and that sort of thing, and use website templates to kind of easily build pretty simple, basic websites. So I had some interest in that regards, and thought about learning it myself, but it was a whole nother track in life to then start learning to code. And so in the early days, we did just like when we launched 7 years ago, it was just a website. And I really believe in the lean startup model, which is basically just do everything as cheap and lean as possible before, like, prove out the idea, I guess, before you actually run with it. And
Right.
so we didn't know if it was going to work. I thought it was a good idea and it could be used, but we also weren't confident enough to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on an app without really knowing first. So yeah, big believer in getting a minimum viable product out, and for us that was basically just a web form. And so we subscribed to a $15 a month, I think, web form software as a service company, I guess, and ran our initial service through there, where people could just go on, put their name, their address, say if they wanted service right away or wanted scheduled ahead. And then at that time, it was really just me fulfilling the requests that were coming in. So we were only in Calgary at the time, and if a request would come in, I myself would go out. I think I had one other guy that kind of handled the other side of the city at the time. And yeah, that's as basic as it was for the first year. That first year, I also don't think it snowed a ton, so it actually wasn't great for our business that we had gone the per time model instead of the monthly model,
Right.
Because we're not getting paid if it doesn't snow. So yeah, that was a little discouraging in the first year, but it still worked enough that we had some signups and people interested in the concept. And so because of that, we spent the later part of that year getting it developed. And so I had just reached out to I think just through my Calgary network and said I was looking to get an app developed, and eventually was able to find someone in Edmonton who could do it for inexpensive. And again, sticking with that model of I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go raise the money because I still didn't have a lot of proof of concept to go to them. We didn't have much revenue or anything, so I wanted to get something as basic as possible, and we were able to find that. And I kind of worked with him. Instead of me doing any of the developing, I did all the, I guess, design of the app and the wireframes and how I wanted it to look, and then basically just sent that to him and said, make it work.
Right. Okay.
And so that worked out well. I mean, it was super basic. I don't know a lot about design and all of that either, but I just wanted people to be able to download an app to their phone, click a button, and then have it send that request to our network.
And even 7 years ago, creating an app, I would say, would be much more difficult than today. Like today, there's Fiverr, there's Upwork, and these are places you can go and hire someone, and it's pretty streamlined now versus, like you were saying, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
So you hired someone locally. That's what I would have done different. I would have probably gone overseas with something like Upwork, where you hire people from India or Europe.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of people are working for us from Turkey, from India as well. Usually we choose people that kind of speak better English, because it is difficult to communicate. But I would say, back in the day, it was a bit more challenging. What was and this even though this is a very specific question, some places wouldn't ask this. Like, can I ask how much did it cost, and how long did it take?
At that time, it was relatively cheap, like under 10 grand to get it done. And like I say, it was a super basic, like it was one step up from our web form.
Right.
And many steps below getting an actually, I guess, professionally developed app. And so it was enough that it worked for people, but it wasn't, and at the time we didn't really know this, but it wasn't as scalable as we would have liked. But it served its purpose. I mean, it got us to where we are today. It took, I think at that time, it only took about 6 months to get developed, 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
So it was a quick turnaround, which is exactly what we wanted at the time as well. Like, we didn't want to spend years developing this, and again, we didn't have the time or money to be going at it for that long. We needed something out right away. So yeah, in that regard, I was super happy with being able to get something out as quickly as possible for as cheap as possible, and it functioned and worked for, I think we had that running for about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And with it, we scaled into a few more cities. I think actually all 7 of our cities additional 7 of our cities we had used that app for, and then kind of just reached a point where we were getting so many jobs coming through, so many contractors out at once picking up jobs, that it really took a toll on the app itself. Just the infrastructure it was created on couldn't handle the amount of data that was coming through it, I guess. And so that's where we realized we kind of went as far as we could with it and needed to get things redeveloped from the ground up and really go for it at that point where it was like, okay, we spent the last 5 years proving out the idea, we've confirmed there's a market, it's working as we thought, now we can really invest in an improved app that we know will be able to service customers going forward.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge? Was it finding clients, or was it finding people to do the work, or perhaps back and forth as you marketed it, or depending on the city or something?
100%. It's still an issue to this day. It's definitely
Right.
back and forth. It's like the classic chicken or egg scenario where we would bring contractors on and they'd be signed up and ready to go, and then there weren't really customer requests coming in, and those contractors would leave because there's no work coming in. And so that tends to be a bit of an issue in the new markets for sure, where trying to find that balance. In Calgary, I think we managed it because I was able to do the work myself, and so I did spend the first probably 3 or 4 years working kind of in the business rather than on the business. And so requests coming in I would handle along with a couple other guys to manage the other parts of the city, and that helped grow it because I could basically work on the business when there weren't requests, and when they were coming in I could leave the house and go out
Right.
and shovel snow or mow lawns. And so we got it to a point where I was able to kind of take more of a backseat role, and there was enough requests coming in that I realized, hey, we could grow this quicker if I spend more time kind of trying to bring in customers and working on the business and hire the contract work out as I had wanted to initially anyways. And then we had launched in, I think, just Edmonton and Winnipeg as well a few years after starting. And to get started there was just a similar thing. I was nervous of starting somewhere where I wasn't, with the biggest
Right.
issue being like, what if something goes wrong? Who's gonna fix it? And not a ton went wrong, and if it did, it was kind of a matter of getting the issue resolved with the contractor that did it.
Right. Okay.
And so with snow removal and lawn mowing and sticking to residential, usually the worst that happens is like an area gets missed, or the lawn's cut too high, or something was forgotten. And so in those cases, I don't need to really intervene and go fix it myself. I can have that person who did the work go in and
go back to
do
it.
it.
Yeah. And was that a big challenge? Like the people that were doing the work, like was it challenging to find competent people to do the work? Because I can imagine like random people sign up. They're maybe they're just kids and they're younger, but they don't actually know how much the job entails, and they're in over their head, and suddenly there's a problem.
Yeah.
Was that a challenge?
It was, yeah. It was a bit of a learning experience, and I was always a bit of a micromanager, I guess you'd say,
Yeah,
and that
I am as well.
that I didn't want to give up hold of, and that's why I spent so long doing the work myself.
Right.
Because I was nervous of that. Of, hey, I've got this list of clients who trust me, they know me, I know I'm going to do a good job for them. That's kind of how we grew, was having that good customer relationship. And that was always really important to us. And so for me to then give up that control and have some person that I didn't entirely know start doing the work was a huge leap of faith for me.
Yeah.
And so I did find a couple of reliable guys, and we created a bit of a training process as well online, so that we weren't letting just anyone sign up. You kind of had to sign up, meet our requirements. If you met the requirements, we'd give you training, which was just online videos and questionnaire, kind of to gauge competence in what we were looking for and get everyone on the same page, kind of try to align how we would provide service. So I think that helped a lot. And then just kind of keeping communication with them, letting them know, hey, there is someone behind this app. You're not just coming on, screwing around, doing a poor job, and then being able to walk away and get paid. It was very much, no, I'm watching, checking that the job's done right. I'm looking at all the before and after photos and seeing if it's done properly. And then, of course, once we had the app, one of the big ways to make sure that proper jobs are being done is that contractors will send the before and after photos to customers right through the app. And so customers are seeing the before and after photo, and then they can rate their service provider, leave any comments. And so that was another way for us to see if a job wasn't done properly, then we can immediately follow up and get it fixed for people and talk to that contractor and hopefully get them to the place we want them.
Yeah, and you do have good reviews, so clearly whatever you're doing is working. And it sounds like Uber and all these other sharing economy places, Airbnb is another example, probably have very similar issues where they're trying to manage the customers and they're trying to manage the service providers. So now, in terms of moving, because that's true scaling, once you get to another city, like, did you have to redesign? I suppose you had to redesign the app a little bit when you were moving to different cities. Was that a challenge? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, we had it kind of designed initially that we would be able to, like, my requirements with the original developer was we're gonna want to scale this and want to add cities, and so we did have a section in there where we could basically just add a city and launch it the next day if we wanted, and then hire contractors in that city. They would basically be assigned to that service area and only see jobs coming in from there. So because it was initially in there, it wasn't a huge issue. With the new app then, we were able to go back and invest a good amount of money to get this new app developed, and
Yeah, you recently made some updates to it.
yeah, so we basically rebuilt it all from the ground up after having the experience of a few years behind us, and that's where we could kind of go and say, okay, this worked and adding cities this way worked, but it would be more improved and better if we could do it this way. And so yeah, really being able to take everything we learned over those years and apply it to a brand new build of the app really helps, because there were a few things lots of things actually where you didn't think they would come up, or
Right.
Of course, like I say, the first version was so basic that you'd find people who were looking for additional services and couldn't get them in there, and the descriptions weren't accurate enough, or people weren't getting confused. And again, back to the contractor quality and ensuring the job is being done right. A lot of things not getting done right really was just because of miscommunication, people not fully understanding the options they were choosing and what would be delivered with the service. And so with the new app, we really focused on making things as clear as possible on both the customer and contractor side, and making it as black and white as possible, so there's not that gray area where customers think they're getting something, contractors think they're delivering something else. So that was very important to us. And then the main thing was just the scalability now. With the new app, there shouldn't be any issues with scaling it, adding new cities, adding new contractors. It should kind of be infinite and allow us to grow as much as we want.
Yeah, and I did look into the story of the founders of Airbnb. Unfortunately, I forget their names. There's one main individual, and a big thing about that was he always worked on his business, and it wasn't an overnight success. It took many years before it started to reach some sort of inflection point, I would say,
Yeah.
and really take off. So that's why I'm interviewing you now, in case you become extremely famous in the future.
Right? Hopefully.
But well, potentially, right? I did see it, and I was I was definitely impressed, and I thought it had a lot of potential. Of course, and it's exciting to interview people and just to meet them at that stage, because then you become untouchable potentially,
Right.
if you get really big. So actually, can I ask how many users do you guys have currently?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I can't kind of give a
Yeah,
straight answer with it.
Of course.
It's tough because since we are on demand in that kind of Uber model, we don't have our recurring contracts, and so we've got tens of thousands of users, but
some of them are dead or not.
some of them are dead, or
dead is the wrong word.
yeah, right.
Potentially some
Not
are dead, but
more.
inactive.
They're waiting for waiting for that 30 centimeter snowfall to hit, and that's what our app's for. Is it's meant to be the avenue that people can take when it snows too much, or they get injured for 2 weeks, or they're on vacation for a week over Christmas. There's not a lot of companies right now that are servicing those types of niche needs, where there's that occasional customer that only wants services here and there. And the old way kind of used to be find a neighbor or go on Kijiji and hope for the best with someone. And so this gives people a bit more of a verified experience, that you can be confident knowing that someone's actually going to come. You're going to get those before and after photos. You've got the app to log it all. You can be in Hawaii or wherever and looking on the beach at your phone and see that your walk is getting shoveled back in Calgary, Edmonton when it's snowing there. So
Yeah, it is a great vacation thing because, like, otherwise you have to go online, fill in a form, communicate with someone to book it. The booking process here is super fast. You just go on the app, fill in a few of your requirements, and boom, you have someone showing up in the next couple of days, or even less, I think.
Yeah. With the on-demand, someone's there usually within a few hours.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then we've made it so you can set up a request that you basically just set for 2 weeks, set it and forget it, and that way you don't have to know if it snowed here. You can basically just set that up. We'll manage the snowfalls for you. If it snows, the request gets sent out, and you just kind of sit back and see the photos come in as it snows. So yeah, that's why it is tough to gauge the customers. Same with the contractors. I mean, we've got thousands of contractors on board, but because it is it's not meant to be a full-time or part-time position even. It's meant to be casual work that you kind of use to fill in, whether you do it yourself already and are just trying to fill in the time, or you have another job and want to do it outside of that. I know a lot of teachers will sign up with us during the summer who have yard work experience from the past, and they're just looking to kind of busy themselves a bit in the summer, make a bit of extra money. And same thing in the winter. We will have university students who are kind of back in school, but if it snows and there's a few sidewalks on their way to school, then they can make a bit of extra money doing that. So yeah, the active versus number of people that are actually signed up definitely varies depending on the snowfall and work.
Have you ever thought about expanding the service options? So right now you have mowing and snow removal. I would think, are you getting into landscaping? Because that kind of might flow into that. I mean, I see the problems with it. It's more complicated.
Yeah.
And in terms of landscaping, especially because every single feature is difficult to price, like trimming bushes or something.
Yeah.
But why not, in case it just gives more people more options?
100%.
I don't know what.
Yeah, no, we have expanded a bit, and that's what everything you said is exactly our hesitations, or had been our hesitations with it. With the pricing gets complicated, the work gets complicated. If we're hiring someone who might not have that exact experience but says they do, we don't want to be messing up yards basically, and making sure that we have experienced, qualified people doing it. And so we have really tried to stick to services that are pretty straightforward, and there's a clear before and after of what should be done and what the expectation is. So hedge trimming, like you said, we do offer that. We offer,
so there are extra services.
Yeah, we offer weeding, pulling weeds basically. We'll do a fall and spring cleanup as well, which is probably more of our spring cleanups especially are more of the, complex services where you do require some specific equipment. But yeah, I'll offer both of those. So yeah, we have enough services, I guess, to like to say, make it more of like a year-round experience. Okay. And if it doesn't snow, we at least have some other options we can offer. And we're always looking at adding more. It is just the exact things you've mentioned, where we might want to get into window washing or gutter cleaning, but then you run into some issues with experience and quality. Yeah.
I always thought it's always better to vertically grow rather than horizontally, because then you focus, you keep things simple, you can control things a bit better. So typically, if you're just doing one thing, you can maintain a better quality of a service rather than really growing vertically. I have a friend who's really into horizontal growth, and I keep Lee Jones. He's actually a friend of most subscribers here. But he likes horizontal growth. I like vertical growth, so we sometimes bicker back and forth, which is better. He's always adding unique items to his rental inventory, while I'm trying to focus on expanding maybe a different style of tent rather than a completely different item in a different category. So there are pros and cons definitely to both. But so I agree. I think vertical growth is better. Uber just offers, now they have tons of things, Uber Eats and stuff like that. But obviously,
it took them a while to expand into those, right? And that's definitely been our, one of the theories we've stuck to is be very good at lawn mowing, be very good at snow removal. Even moving into some of these other services, I was a bit reluctant because I knew it was going to be, it's going to be harder to control the quality and ensure customers are happy, and having control over that while you've got contractors out in the field can be difficult. And so we've always just tried to pride ourselves on, if there is an issue, we're going to fix it for you. We really value our customer service and pushing that and taking customer feedback and getting it fixed right away for them. But yeah, back to the vertical growth thing too. It's like one of our competitors, I guess you could say, would be like TaskRabbit.
Okay.
They're another app, but they've gone the route of horizontal growth, where they offer every single task imaginable. And I'm sure some of their services only get a few users here and there, and there's only a few people who can perform them. But that's the other way to kind of go about it. So
is maintaining an app, because it is now a full-fledged app essentially, is maintaining an app in the Apple Store, I'm assuming it's iOS,
Yep.
is it Android?
Android and iOS.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, it's on both, yeah.
So now we've got two separate native apps for each.
Okay. Like, is maintaining, like, are they constantly doing updates to the requirements, and that you have to keep like updating the app? Is there lots of, let's say, monthly maintenance in order to keep the app running without too many bugs?
Yeah, for sure. Good question. Yeah. No, the monthly maintenance, the main thing is maintaining the operational side is the difficult part, so the jobs going in and out.
Okay.
The app itself, there are, like you say, updates coming in, and even like little thing. I guess iOS right now especially is pushing the privacy side of things a lot.
Right.
So making sure that we're following those guidelines and only asking for certain data and giving people the option to not give any data.
Right.
All of those are important advancements and improvements that are constantly coming. I know we have a Facebook login button that sometimes just stops working because they've changed something, and so there definitely is maintenance going into that, and we do have a team still working with us constantly, and even a lot of it is just bugs coming in where a customer's used it a certain way and running into an issue that we thought we had tested everything, and whatever combination of clicks that they went through suddenly leads to an issue. So that's more where the issues are.
Personally, I dabbled a little bit in terms of framework. So we had an idea for an app, and we started laying out all the pages, individual pages. And actually it becomes crazy, like the amount of different pages you need. You don't really think about it until you start doing it, and you're like, wow, there's actually a lot of work here. But yeah, we'll keep the interview, like we can't, most of the content on my channel here, TRB Vlogs, is probably sub 30 minutes. It's probably way over 30 minutes now. So a couple of big questions here, like first of all, like you're growing. Are you growing? Are you expanding? What does the future hold? And what are the biggest challenges going forward?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely still growing, and as telling you before this, we are, now that we have this new app in place and that it can scale the way we want, we're really just focused on marketing and growth at this time and getting customers on board. And so we've taken a bit of a step back and are really focused on the cities we have the most traction in, and again, kind of going deep on where we're doing well rather than spreading ourselves too thin. So in the early days, I wanted to get into every city to basically prove, hey, this can scale, the concept works, we can get it working there, but did spread myself a bit too thin, where some of the newer cities, it all goes back to the chicken or egg scenario, where we get a couple customers coming in, then suddenly the contractors are gone. So the customers aren't getting service, so they're not going to keep using us.
Right.
Then you finally get contractors, fulfill the jobs, and then there's no more jobs coming in. And so because of that, I'm taking a bit of a step back and focusing where we've had the most traction, which is our early and kind of biggest cities, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, plans for growth is definitely just try to grow as big as we can there. And there's so many houses that don't use us yet, and there's so many that do, but then there's so many that haven't heard of us, and so we're kind of trying to figure out how to spread so that everyone knows that we exist and that we're an option, and especially because of the fact that people don't always need us, like we were talking about. It's the one-time type of service, and so how do we get customers to remember us when they actually need the service, and don't just end up going back to the defaults that they know and can remember. Oh, MowSnowPros exists, I can click this button, someone's going to show up, and that's a lot easier. So
yeah, how do you get repeat clients? That's true. Maybe some sort of discount. I'm sure you already offered that.
That's just it. Yeah, there's so many avenues to go down, and so many, even print marketing is a traditional way of advertising within the landscaping industry, and like that's that's something we need to go back to. And of course, digital marketing, because we are an app, makes a lot of sense.
Or some sort of referral thing too, like
We do.
Yeah,
We do have a.
course,
If you use your code, exact same as Uber, basically. If you use your code, you get $10. Your friend gets $10, and then you get $10
Right.
as well to use towards a future service.
Yeah.
So
So these are all interesting things, and hopefully you learned something with Aidan. We'll follow up with him if he's not untouchable by that time.
I'll make sure I remain untouchable.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
In a couple of years, see where he's at, and maybe leave your comments below if you have some questions or anything for Aidan. Maybe I'll reach out to him or tell him to try to spot those comments and we answer them. But if you're interested in developing an app, let's leave it at that last question. If you're interested in developing an app, what's your one piece of advice?
I'd go back to what I said earlier and really just start small and prove the concept first. Don't have an idea and go out and spend 200 grand on it.
Right.
But it might work. It for sure might work and has worked for people. But definitely I believe in the proof of concept and doing it. Like, there's so many ways, especially now, like you were saying, through Fiverr and any of these sites where you can outsource. Outsource. You can basically get even a super basic app developed. Before that, I would go to develop a website, do a survey, run a Facebook ad, even if you don't have a website yet. Run an ad and see if people are actually clicking on it for your product that doesn't yet exist, or your app that doesn't yet exist. And hey, if people are clicking on it, then do the next step and run, follow up with them, ask more questions. And only once you kind of have that confidence that people are actually going to use you and you're going to make some return on investment and have a way to grow it and a way to monetize it, then I would say move into getting an actual scalable solution developed.
Awesome. Well, Aidan, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thank you
and talking to us. And guys, take it easy. We'll see you later.